Hey, Iostux here. Today we'll talk about aim and movement, both of which are core mechanical skills to any FPS. In my opinion, good aim and movement alone can carry you to at least Diamond, if not Master tier. Also, aim and movement play together, so that's why I'm going over each of them in this video. The topics of today will be input lag, aim techniques, the right crosshair, practicing aim in multiple games, focusing on the crosshair or the enemy, movement while aiming, and how to practice aim the right way. In-game, you can press Ctrl, Shift and N to open Analytics. The sim value at the top left represents the total input lag you experience. The higher the input lag, the slower your reactions. Also, high input lag causes the game to feel floaty. If you limit your FPS, you will know what I'm talking about. In order to lower your sim, you need to increase your FPS. More FPS equals less input lag. Now, input lag can be inconsistent since it is based on your frame rate. In this case, limiting frame rate is really useful, and that's the reason why I have mine limited to display based. If you never drop below your frame rate cap, you will always play with the same input lag, and consistent input lag is better than low input lag. You may get 300 FPS on the practice range and like a sim value of 3, but not in a team fight and in game. This is where statements such as "my aim is really good when warming up, but shit in game" come from. Now we go over aim techniques. The two most important ones for Overwatch are flicking and tracking. There are also the techniques pre-shooting and planting, both of which are used in slower FPS games such as CSGO. Now, with flicking there are three types: micro flicks, medium flicks, and long flicks. It's important to be good at all of them. Here we can see the micro flick, which is good for quickly adjusting your aim, especially while tracking. This is a medium flick, which is great for when you need to swap targets after you have killed your first. And this is the long range or clutch flick, which is great when suddenly someone enters your peripheral vision. There are two styles of tracking: predictive tracking and reactive tracking. Predictive tracking is when the enemy moves in a straight line and doesn't switch directions. This one is easy to track since their movement is predictable. Reactive tracking, on the other hand, is when the enemy strafes or stops abruptly. Maybe he even jumps around. This is harder to track. You'll need very fast microflicks and good reaction time to deal with it. Here we can see that McCree moves in a straight line and it's incredibly easy to hit him. Now McCree strafes from side to side, and whenever he strafes, I need to adjust my aim, which gives me less uptime. So what is pre-shooting and planting? Now, pre-shooting is shooting before you see the enemy. This is good for slow peeking corners in CSGO, but not very useful in Overwatch. Planting is positioning your crosshair in advance and waiting for the enemy to step into it. Now, this could be useful in Widowmaker, but even then, flicking is more common. Here we can see that I plant my crosshair near the gate, and all I need to do is hit left click. Next up, the question, which one is the right crosshair? Now, in my opinion, the crosshair is mostly preference. All of them have small disadvantages and advantages. Now, the default circle covers a lot of your screen and the target. However, its guidelines are really good for projectiles. The big crosshair has helpful guidelines. However, it covers a lot of the screen, but it doesn't cover the target. The short crosshair, which is my personal favorite, has little helpful guidelines. It doesn't cover the target, however it still covers a bit of the screen. Now the dot doesn't really cover the screen at all, however it does cover your target. So in my opinion, crosshairs make a minimal difference. Everything can work. Now crosshair color is a little different. White is hard to see on snowy maps like Nepal, so I don't really recommend it. Green is great and has been proven over the years since it provides good contrast on basically every map. Cyan is a little bright, but it still offers good contrast and I can recommend it. Red crosshairs can be hard to see in darker spaces, and if you focus on them they can hurt your eyes. Pink is very similar to that. It's very shiny, however it has really good contrast on basically every map. Yellow is very bright and it can be hard to see it on maps like Anubis. And black is, in my opinion, basically unusable since it's incredibly hard to see in dark spaces up to complete invisibility. Next up, the question of practicing aim in different games. The two most popular games for practicing Overwatch aim are Quake Live and Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Both of them are really cheap to get on Steam. Now, the lightning gun in Quake Live is great for tracking, such as Zarya for instance, since the weapons are basically identical. The railgun is really great for flicking, so for characters like McCree or Widowmaker. The sensitivity and the FOV are very customizable, so they can be set to your Overwatch settings. However, the input lag is usually lower than in Overwatch since you can achieve higher frame rates and there is no 1 frame input buffer, so that might mess you up a little bit. CSGO has really great custom aim maps, and the sensitivity can be set to your Overwatch sensitivity. However, it only provides limited FOV options. The input lag is lower than in Overwatch as well, since the source engine is super optimized, so that may annoy you a little bit when you switch back to Overwatch. Now, in my opinion, the best way to practice aim in Overwatch is again by playing Overwatch itself. Other games may have custom modes for practicing, which Overwatch lacks, and the differences in input lag and FOV can fuck up your muscle memory, so be aware of that. You should probably try it out. It works exceptional for some, but not so well for others. Another question is whether you should focus your eyes on the crosshair or the enemy. Now, Taimu, who is a pro hitscan main for Team Envious, focuses on the scene as a whole. It's the result of years of practice. He mentioned that in an AMA on Reddit. Generally focusing on what you want to shoot, which is the target, is best. Focusing on the crosshair blurs your target as it is outside of your peripheral vision. The more you practice, the more natural aiming will become, and focusing your eyes is second nature. Next up is movement while aiming, which is usually underrated in my opinion. It's just as important as aiming. Proper movement makes you a difficult target to hit, which is really good in duels. However, moving while aiming can be difficult, so practice and getting a rhythm for it will help. Erratic movements make you unpredictable. Most people use the 80-80 strafe, which means that you move from left to right. Also, you should add in quick pauses between the strafes so that the enemy can't predict you and find out your rhythm. However, sometimes standing still is viable because it makes it easier for you to aim. This is especially good when the enemies flee or disengage and they don't even look at you, or when the enemies haven't noticed you. So for instance, when you are shooting a Pharah that hasn't seen you yet. Make sure that you never walk towards or away from your target. That makes you super easy to hit. Also, don't jump around, since jumping is predictable, and predictable movement is bad movement. Some exceptions are Genji and Lucio, because their hitboxes while jumping change, which make them smaller and thus harder to hit. Here we can see Genji's hitbox while he's double jumping. As you can see, he clutches up a little bit and makes a little flip. And Lucio distorts his body a little bit. It's actually kind of funny to look at in slow motion. And wall riding also changes his physique. So how do you practice aiming the right way? You should never go on autopilot. Think about every single shot you make. You should ask yourself the questions: should I flick? Should you track? Do you need to strafe or can you stand still? Should you go for the headshot or is a body shot going to kill? So here we can see that one headshot after you flashbang Tracer is enough to kill her. And after you hit a headshot as McCree, it's enough if you shoot them in the foot, so you don't need to risk the headshot. The best way to practice aim will be playing the game. After you have warmed up using your preferred method, play against real people. They have unpredictable movement and you get to play versus different hitboxes. First and foremost, you should practice accuracy. Focus on hitting your shots. Speed will come with time. Now here are two quotes that I like to use. The first one is by John Link, called "The slower you'll go, the faster you'll get there." And one by Johannes Sebastian Bach. It's easy to play any musical instrument. All you have to do is touch the right key at the right time and the instrument will play itself. So you may have one question. Why the fuck am I sharing piano quotes? Which is an exceptional question. The reason for that is that playing the piano or any instrument and aiming in video games has a lot of similarities, in that they are both purely mechanical skills that need to be practiced and that rely on muscle memory. Now you can apply the Bach quote to aiming. As in, aiming is easy. All you need to do is move your crosshair on the enemy's head and left click. However, the difficulty comes with speed. Playing the game at 500% slow motion, and chances are you will hit every shot in the head. However, the faster the enemy moves, the faster you move, and the faster the game plays, the more difficult the game becomes. If you can't headshot a diva running towards you, you won't headshot a tracer blinking around you. So to sum up, warming up is not practice. Make sure to play the game, as aim comes with gameplay time and playing against real people. Also, always focus on your aim. Make your practice deliberate. Never get on autopilot, you will learn bad habits from that. Also, make sure to hit your shots. Speed will come later. Also, headshots are important. If you practice your headshots and you can land them consistently, body shots will feel like first grade.